You're not going to have a Satanist explain this exactly to you like this, or find a document that's going to say, here are our 4 basic tenets. Let me just clear that up, okay? This is my concrescence of what this ideology is basically about. It's a boiling down process to get to the heart of what this mindset is, okay? So keep that in mind. You can find their own documents, and they'll be very actually open about a lot of the things that I'm saying, and you'll be able to confirm it if you research into it. But you're not going to have somebody say, we have 4 overarching main tenets. That's my boiling down process to get people and give people an accurate understanding of what's really involved in this religion. Just want to clarify that. The second tenet is moral relativism. And this is the ideology that there is no such thing as objective right or wrong. Okay, that right and wrong are constructs that are made up by mankind, made up by human beings, and we can make of them what we want based on our likes, our preferences, our whims, what we feel at any given time or in any given situation. Okay, that right and wrong aren't objective. They're not standards that are objective, and that we need to discover. Okay, there's something that we get to create. We don't discover them because they're independent of us and objective. We are allowed to create them. We are allowed to create what right and wrong are because they are subjective and they are just based on human perception. That's the ideology known as moral relativism. Now, you could see how that goes hand in hand with believing that you're God. Okay, basically, which is what really this religion is about. It's about you being the center of the universe. Okay,
right. You had a term for that called solipsism.
Solipsism, yes.
Solipsism.
Now, solipsism is the idea that there is no such thing as truth, that there is no such thing as objective truth at all. And Satanists do not practice solipsism. Let me be very emphatic about that. They are not practitioners of solipsism, but they sell solipsism to non-Satanists. They sell solipsism to the general public, okay? Because they want to control people, and they know the only way you can control people is to get them to believe, there's no such thing as truth. Why bother looking for truth? I call solipsism the biggest lie. In Satanism, they consider this ideology, or religion, if you will, called solipsism. And for people who are not familiar with the word, let me just spell this for you. It's S-O-L-I-P-S-I-S-M, solipsism. S-O-L-I-P-S-I-S-M. Look it up. It's the ideology that there is no such thing as objective truth, and nothing about the world can ever really truly be known. We can only have a perception about something or an opinion about something, but knowledge does not exist. Now, the Satanists, again, and the dark occultists do not subscribe to solipsism. It is considered a sin in Satanism. It is considered a sin in this religion to subscribe to the ideology of solipsism. That means Satanists and dark occultists know that there is an objective truth, and they don't care. They don't care. They aren't going to say, I'm going to turn that truth on its head, and I'm going to fly in the face of it no matter what the truth is. I'm going to get other people to believe there is no such thing as truth so I can control them. And see, that's why solipsism is peddled to the masses by Satanists and dark occultists. They want as many other people to subscribe to solipsism as possible, and hence the New Age movement, as we'll get into later on. So this is a big tenet within the New Age movement. Solipsism, I would say, comprises one of their main ideological tenets that they peddle. And I'm telling you, this is being done through Satanism and dark occultism that is controlling the publishing houses of the New Age communities and putting these ideas like an infection into that population. Okay.
I actually have come to the belief that I think it's far deeper than those entities that you just mentioned, is that I think it's in the deep black military-industrial complex, the CIA, maybe even aspects of the FBI. And
who do you think's running these organizations at the highest level of the military and intelligence complexes? Of course it's dark occultists. I mean, you only need to look at the history of NASA to verify that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The modern dark occult secret societies are the intelligence agencies and the intelligence agency networks. That's who these people are. They're Satanists at the highest levels. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right, and I've had so many conversations with people, and I just had one, God, heaven forbid I'm even saying this, with my father this last weekend after the Super Bowl, is that we got into chemtrails and stuff, and he just can't buy the stuff, and yet, I've witnessed it. I've got hundreds of photographs, and I'm trying to get across to him that this Satanist occultist network has its tentacles into everything. There's nothing that they're not into. And that's why we see this domination and control mechanism that is so prevalent. Once you wake up to it, you see it everywhere.
So many people are in denial about just how evil this world has become. They can't bring themselves to open their eyes and see what's right in front of them. I mean, there are so many denialists about how bad things really are and about the geoengineering operations that are right in their face, but they can't see what they do. Not to totally fault people like that, okay? But here's what they're doing. The flaw in their thinking, their logical fallacy is, it goes something like this. I would never do something like that. So therefore, the people who we consider our quote-unquote leaders would never do something like that. This is a very, very dangerous slope to go down. Believing that other people share your moral sensibilities is a very naive approach to life. Okay? You have to understand that psychopathy exists. Psychopaths are out there. This is another species. It looks like a human being. It walks like a human being. It talks like a human being. But it is not a human being.
Yes,
it is an animal that looks human.
Yes,
okay? And it is an interspecies predator. Yes.
Yes, they are absolutely chosen and groomed.
That's right. And that's what the lower levels of Satanism are for. Like I said, there's psychological filtration systems and vetting systems that are looking for the psychopaths out in society, either primary psychopaths that are born that way or secondary psychopaths that have been created by the conditions of the human condition, essentially, that we're living in. And they're looking for those secondary psychopaths to take them into their ranks and groom them up through their hierarchy. Absolutely.
Yes, so, and you know what? You said something else that and I want to just tap into this a little bit, because when I realized this, it was a stunning moment, an epiphany, when I realized that pretty much the entire population is insane. And here's why. We all of us do this. I do it much less now, but we all modify our behavior according to what we think other people are thinking.
Right.
So we're projecting our consciousness on that person standing outside of me, that avatar, literally, because that's the way the mind is working now, and projecting my consciousness on that illusion, I hate to say, and saying that I'm assuming I know what they are thinking, and then I modify my behavior. The insanity of that, it's all in your head. It has nothing to do with the other person. Zero. Zip.
And, that's really what the ego is. The ego is that state that, that mind state that wants us to conform, to fall in line, not to be free, not to understand truth, not to admit when we're wrong, etc. And I try to tell people say, well, he has an ego, she has an ego, they have an ego. There isn't separate egos. The ego has us. It's the other way around. Human beings don't have an ego. The ego, there's only one ego. It's a force that either has a human soul or doesn't have the human soul. Okay? So it is the thing we are trapped inside of, mentally, psychologically, spiritually, emotionally. The ego has us. It's the other way around. People think human beings have an ego. No, the ego, the one ego, has human beings. Most human beings, almost all of them. There are some people who have escaped that force, and it doesn't rule their lives. okay? But most people are trapped within that dark force, that, again, conformist mindset, the machine mind, you could call it. You could call it the mindset that wants people to remain enslaved and then support slavery and condone slavery, because that's what this is all about. This is all about that we're existing. The human condition is slavery. And Satanism and a satanic belief system is what propagates slavery. That's what is doing it. People have to come out of the satanic mindset to end slavery, to get involved in the great work of ending slavery on earth. And that's the problem. Most people are derailed. They're derailed by the satanic mindset and then its dark bride, the New Age movement. These are the two, and religion. You could throw organized religion in there with the New Age movement because it's all religion. There's the dark, left-brained religion called Satanism and dark occultism, and then there's the right-brained religions called cultural, organized religions, and the New Age movement falls to that right-brain hemispherical imbalance side. So it's all about keeping people in states of brain imbalance, either to the left, subscribing to the satanic ideology or the lower-level variants of it, and to the right, subscribing to religion and the New Age movement. So to go back to the...
You know what, Mark? I think that it would be very beneficial for the listeners to really deeply understand this. You have absolutely fantastic YouTube videos that really delve into this imbalance of the hemispheres of the brain.
Right.
And you do a fantastic job and just teasing that apart so it makes it really, really obvious. And I tell you, it was a wake-up call for me because I started to see some aspects in there that I need to correct.
Sure. We all do. I mean, all of us, and then you have to maintain that balance because you could slip back out of it. It's not like you come to that level of balance and just stay there forever. It requires work. It's like keeping your body in shape through exercising. You stop doing that, muscles atrophy, and you'll get weaker. It's the same thing with the mind.
Exactly.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
For the listeners to really understand, make no mistake, this was done intentionally to humanity.
Absolutely.
This is no mistake. This isn't just because people are the way that they are.
Right.
No. This is a very, very orchestrated construct to keep us as slaves. And what I think is really important for people to understand also is that the first thing that we need to do is get out of our own personal mindset of slavery, that ego thing. We have to start with ourselves first.
That's exactly right. And what you were saying there, people really should go back and check out my early work that talks about the brain and the entire psyche, and how to balance that. And the parts of the physiological brain. They're in my early podcasts. You can check those out at whatonearthishappening.com. Click the podcast section, and then go back to number 1. I always recommend people listen to those in order because it's a progression of information. It's a tapestry, and you need the earlier information to understand the later information in the later podcasts. So to just take it back to wrap up these couple of other satanic tenets. We talked about self-preservation and moral relativism, but these lead inevitably to the idea of social Darwinism, and it's going to touch on what you were just talking about, the idea that people are just the way that they are, okay? Right. This is a very insidious, and it's one of the things, it's a mindset that keeps things the way that they are. If you believe this, if you buy into this idea that there is a human nature is a set thing in a set way, okay? But people will say, well, is human nature good? Is it angelic? Is it of divinity, and is it divine, or is it demonic, and is it horrible and bad, and just we're flawed, and we come into the world with sin out of the box, out of the cradle, okay? And I tell people, I upset everybody in this polarity, in this dualistic way of seeing human beings, because I tell people it's neither of these things, okay? We are not angelic or demonic by our very nature. We are programmable. And if somebody understands how to program that code, they can change the human condition into what they want it to be. And the very insidious thing is that it is self-propagating, because then this generation teaches it to the next generation. They program them with bad information. And then they develop a bad condition. And then they program the next generation. And on it goes. And the cycle is very difficult to break out of. You have to understand that the human consciousness works. And listen to the next word I'm going to say very carefully. The human consciousness works like a computer. It isn't that it is a computer, it's that it works like a computer. Okay? So if you put good information, if you program a good operating system and a good coding and good programs into a computer, it's going to behave the way you expect it to behave and get the job done that you're using that computer for. The same applies to a human being. If you give it a good operating system, okay, which is the basic underlying psychological foundation, and if you want to call it belief system, but I would say knowledge of objective truth would be much better than a belief system. And you give it good software programs, in other words, modalities of being able to deal with anything that you might encounter in the outside world that is balanced and appropriate and entails a deep understanding of natural law, then you're going to have good output through behavior. You know, that's the same way a computer works. Input, processing, and output. It's the same way a human being works. We take in information, we process it, and develop understanding of that information, and then we behave upon it. We act upon it. And again, if the information input is good, the understanding will be accurate, and then our behavior will be good and create order. Conversely, if the information we take in is bad or of a poisonous nature, and then we process that, and we don't have good understanding, then we're not going to act very wise. We're not going to have wisdom. Our behavior is going to be terrible, and that's going to reflect in the outside world through the conditions that we live in. That's why the human condition is the way that it is. So we have to understand this idea of human nature in itself is flawed. We're programmable beings, and if you understand how to program that code and change it, you can make it whatever you want. Unfortunately, who has the reins of that code right now are the dark side, the dark occultists. And they've done an excellent job programming people to behave the way they want them to behave. But we can still reverse it. We can turn it around, but we have to take in good information and then develop understanding upon that so our behavioral output will be good and will reflect true order in the world. So this ideology of social Darwinism is the third tenet of Satanism. It's the notion that, the way we see the world now is the natural order. I just was talking to someone on Facebook or somewhere else, on some social network, and I said, right now there's psychopaths in control of the world. And the person actually said, well, that's the natural order. These are the people who are willing to do whatever it takes to get their way and make things the way that they want them to be. And I'm sorry, my dog is barking in the background there.
Dog fight. We're talking about psychopaths, and there's a dog fight.
Yeah, they're programmed to attack psychopaths now. But
right on.
To go back to this notion, this person was trying to say, well, hey, isn't that just the natural order, like how the animals, the most ruthless of the animals, come out on top of the so-called animal kingdom, and that human beings just it's perfectly normal for them to behave the same way, just act the most vicious and ruthless, and whoever rules the pecking order, they come out on top, and that's just how it is, and that's how it should be. And I said, that is the most poisonous, darkest worldview based in social Darwinism that I've ever heard in my life. And unfortunately, Tony, most people think that way. You ask people, should the people who are the most vicious and ruthless ultimately rule humanity and come out on top and be in control of everybody else and be at the top of all of our institutions and be at the top of the pecking order of human life? And most people will agree with that. And it reflects, that's not a reflection of really the human condition so much as it's a reflection of their own mindset. Because what they're really revealing there to someone else when they say that is, if I could do that, I would. That's what they're really revealing. If I could put myself in that position of control and authority and ruthless maintenance of that control and authority, I would do it in a heartbeat. That's what they're saying when they tell you that that's their worldview. They would never admit it. They would never admit it to you or to themselves. But I'm telling you, that's their psychological makeup.
Boy, that's frightening. And this kind of gets into this whole thing about authority and hierarchy, and how, at least in my estimation, and I could be wrong with this, but how we, from the time we drop out of the womb, we're programmed with this idea, this belief that it's somehow a natural thing. And I rail against it, and that's caused me many problems in my life, is that I've always had a problem with hierarchy and authoritarianism.
And I'm going to get to that in a moment. Let me just briefly wrap up the four tenets. The fourth tenet is eugenics. Eugenics is the idea that, and you could see this slippery slope progression, self-preservation being the highest aspiration of a human being, to moral relativism, that there's no such thing as objective right and wrong, to social Darwinism, that the most ruthless, this is the variant of the most fittest survive in regular macrobiological Darwinianism, okay?
Right.
You take that into the human social realm, and therefore the most ruthless human beings are the fittest to survive, and then that descends into eugenics. Then that super elite class should then exercise their right to decide who gets to breed or not breed, who gets to propagate their genes, or in other words, who gets to live and who gets to die. Okay, so that's eugenics, and that's the fourth tenet. And again, if you put these tenets before people, most people are in at least a couple of these modalities of thinking or others. And, if they're honest with you, they'll admit that they are in that mindset. Now, to go to your a question about authority and hierarchy, absolutely. This plays into this mindset because most people believe that that's just part of the, quote, natural order. And I'm going to talk more and more about this diseased religion. Okay, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about whoever believes this is mentally sick. You have an imbalanced brain that has led to an attachment to a religious belief system. Believing that it is okay for people to rule over other people and essentially act as their masters, which is what authority basically is. Okay, authority is, it's a belief system that is based in violence, meaning if you don't agree, I'm going to harm you until you comply, or I make you comply physically. All right, that a subclass of human beings, okay, a certain small grouping of human beings that calls themselves government, is allowed to create what they call laws, which are their own preferences and whims, okay, that are commands that they issue to other people. And then the rest of the people who are not considered part of this elite grouping or class called government or authority or kingship or hierarchy, I don't care what you call it, okay, that anyone who is not them, of their quote-unquote divinely appointed nature, okay, as the masters, as the master class that gets to issue the commands, are their subjects or slaves, and they must comply with the commands of the master. They must, they have some sort of a moral obligation to say, oh, yes, I see, that is your command, and therefore I must do that. That's what authority is. And anybody who is thinking that that's not, as I just laid it out there, that's not what authority is, you're just wrong. That is the definition of authority. That is the definition of how government works. Okay? It's one class of people saying, we're the masters, we're the law writers. We get to tell you what you can and can't do. If you refuse to comply, we have violence waiting for you, that we will send people to do violence unto you if you don't agree. That's if we're being honest with ourselves. Now, most people are not being honest with themselves. Most people, and this is a very caustic statement, but it's true nonetheless, most people lie to themselves from the moment they wake up until the moment they fall asleep at night. Constantly.
Yes.
Continuously. Continuously, non-stop lying to themselves. That's what cognitive dissonance is. It's seeing one thing with your own eyes, and then in your mind you're saying, oh, no, it isn't that way. It's called lying to yourself. It's another name for the dissociative psychological condition known as cognitive dissonance, which most of humanity is trapped in. Okay?
Yep.
The simpler term for it is just lying to yourself. And I like to try to simplify things and call things what they are instead of euphemizing them. Cognitive dissonance is actually just lying to yourself on a constant basis. Most people do that. So this notion of authority is not the natural order. It's not natural, number one. Natural means inherent and based in nature. The idea of authority is based in a diseased mind. People who believe in the concept of authority are mentally sick. They're mentally ill. They have an imbalance toward the left brain hemisphere, and those who accept authority are imbalanced toward the right brain hemisphere. So in other words, all the masters are sick in the left side of the brain, that chronically imbalanced toward the left brain hemisphere, and all the slaves who accept their slavery are sick and imbalanced toward the right brain hemisphere. That's just the way that it is. It's not because I say that it is that way. I'm trying to explain to you that's how the physiological dynamics of the human brain are imbalanced in one hemisphere or the other, depending on what these people are saying that they believe and accept in their lives. That tells you whether they're ill or not. It's a psychological framework for the understanding of that behavior that they display, either trying to control people, meaning left brain imbalance, or accepting the control that is postulated and claimed that this other class of people may do. That's the right brain imbalance when you accept that control. So being truly awake or illuminated or enlightened means you're not involved in the control game anymore. You understand it's all an illusion. It doesn't exist in nature. It's not order. It's chaos. It can lead to nothing but chaos, nothing but suffering, nothing but death, nothing but slavery. That's all it can ever lead to. Okay? So it's not natural. It's not inherent in nature, and it's not order. It's chaos. It's the exact opposite. It's artificially imposed chaos. We need to stop calling this or even thinking about this as the natural order. It's nothing of the kind. It is artificially imposed chaos that exists nowhere except in a diseased psyche. That's the only place that the idea of authority exists in. So, that's the whole, therein lies the entire problem, okay? That most people don't understand what I just laid out there. And they're still believing in this religion called authority. Religion is an authority. Authority is a religion, I should say. And the people who they've actually gotten to not rebel against this are all the people that they've sold the right-brained variant of religion to. So, and this goes for organized religion as well, okay? They're not exempt from that because they all would claim that we should obey government and government is legitimate. You ask any religious so-called leader or teacher, okay? You go to a priest, you go to a rabbi, you go to an imam, and you ask them, is government legitimate? Is it a legitimate construct? Is it a legitimate institution? Should people accept government or rebel against government? And every one of those religious institutions is going to tell you government is legitimate. You should obey all the laws that government leaders lay down because it is legitimate, and many of them will even tell you that it is of God. That it is of God. And what I would tell them is you can't serve two masters. It says it right in your own scriptures. And you are serving Satan, which is the force that's behind all government. Okay? A satanic mindset lies behind all notions of authority while claiming to be a man of God. You have the nerve of people like that. And the nerve of people to accept it and accept this as some kind of a valid religion. This is a false religion. Religion is hijacked. It's hijacked by the same people who have hijacked all the other institutions. It's controlled and owned by the dark occultists of this world. And the people who believe in these exoteric religions, they're all duped. But the most duped among them is the New Age movement. The new religion, the catch-all. I like to call this the catch-all religion. This is for all the people, because they know religion's on the wane. The right brain modality, it's actually on the wane in the world. But they need that. They need that dynamic, the double arch, that one side presses against the other to form strength. That's the biggest, strongest form in architecture. Okay, so you need an arch. You need opposing dynamics. You have the left brain idea of authority. You need religion to play off against that dynamic. All right, to control people, to control everyone. Okay. So you need the right brain to be the slaves of that society and to propagate the notion that that slavery is legitimate. You know, we need people who believe in religion to tell all the other people in the world who are under this slavery system that it's legitimate and it's of God and we shouldn't rebel and there's never a time to use force. And it doesn't matter what people are doing to strip you of your rights. You should never actually physically rebel. That would be non-spiritual. That wouldn't be godly. That wouldn't be of this world. This is utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. And the biggest religion, this catch-all religion, because they know that the cultural religions are on the wane, okay? And they know more people, especially in the West, aren't buying the ancient cultural desert sky god astro-theology religions anymore. So they have to give them the new variant, and that's what the New Age movement or the New Age religion is, okay? The New Age religion is the new right brain imbalance dynamic that has to play off against that left brain imbalance dynamic of authority. So the main tenet to keep in mind of the New Age religion is it is the religion of no action. It is the religion of standing down and not actually taking real-world physical action here, now, on Earth. And people will say, Mark, you're so tied to this realm. You're so tied to the flesh. You're so tied to 3D. You're so tied to what's going on in this world. Okay? And this is all a mind-controlled dynamic on the part of the controllers, on the part of the dark occultists, to get people to buy into this BS religion, to get them to think this world does not matter and what goes on here does not matter. I just looked at a site a couple of days ago. It was some preacher telling people that anyone who suggests to change anything in the physical world is of Satan, and is telling people to be attached to Satan's kingdom because this is the way this kingdom is eternally is, and all of it is evil. And it's always going to be like this, always going to stay that way. Do you know how sick that person is in the right brain hemisphere? You know how diseased, how imbalanced chronically that person's brain. If you put that person's brain under a PET or a SPECT scan, which is a type of brain scan, a high-contrast brain scan.
Yes, and there's been, just so people understand, there's been some absolutely fascinating studies done on this, on people that have been known to be psychopaths and also people who are more balanced. And it is amazing the way their brains light up. Go ahead, Mark.
And not just that, Tony, people who are religious extremists or religiously, very invested in religion, and very interesting studies with brain scans with addicts, drug addicts, or people who have very low self-worth and then punish themselves with abusive drugs and, really do a number on themselves in an addiction capacity. You will see all the hallmarks of the brain imbalance that I'm talking about, absolutely borne out in a scientific study. And the scans I'm talking about, again, are PET, but even much more high contrast and three-dimensional scans, which even reveal much more about what's going on in the brain in these two forms of imbalance I'm talking about are SPECT, S-P-E-C-T, all capital letters, scan. I don't have the exact acronym that stands for right now. It's something emission spectroscopy or something like that. But if you look up SPECT scan of the brain, you'll see
doing that right now
of what I'm talking about. If you look at a psychopath's brain, it will show very different to what a normal functioning human being that can experience a full range of human emotions brain would look like. If you look up a total control, somebody, very, very imbalanced in the left brain, very overly scientific and logical without a balance of the sacred feminine, compassion, care, nurturing, creativity side of the brain, the right brain. If you look at how their brain functions, the left side of the brain is dominant and the right side of the brain suffers and is not really electrochemically stimulated. And again, these aren't 100%, folks. I mean, it's not like every function I'm talking about of the left brain is only in the left brain. You have to understand this is a generality, okay? And it generally holds true that certain functions largely work through the left brain hemisphere and other functions largely work through the right brain hemisphere. It's not a 100% thing. Brain chemistry and neurophysiology is a lot more complicated than just that simplistic breakdown. But in general, that model holds true. So if you look at right brain imbalanced people, or people who are heavily addicted to certain kinds of drugs, you'll see that the right brain is overstimulated and the left brain is not really electrochemically working properly. It's not holistically balanced. See, real enlightenment and real awakening comes from totally and maintaining, creating and maintaining brain balance. And then what you're doing through that brain balance is you're connecting in with heart energy. You can't leave the heart out of that equation because they're both putting out incredibly intense magnetic fields, but the heart's magnetic field is even more powerful than the brain's is. See, when the brain hemisphere is balanced, then you're getting that connection of energy to the heart because true care is going to be born because you're going to understand more clearly about what's really going on in the world. When people ask me, Mark, what's the number one thing you would like to be able to do without any consequence? Here's the number one thing I would like to be able to do. It ties in with what we began the show talking about. If I could suffer no consequence from it in this world, I would love to be able to kidnap a human being and take them to the ritual centers of the Satanists that I formerly worked with. That's the number one thing I would love to be able to do in the world without consequence. Of course, I'm not going to do that because there will be very negative consequences for taking the free will of the human being and, not even just karmically or spiritually, but with man's law in place. But if I could do it and get away with it, I would take a human being that didn't believe that the dark occult existed and didn't believe that the people who I'm telling you are in control of the world are in control of it. And I would, if I could arrange it, I would take them to a satanic ritual center and just leave them there. And then afterward, if they were still alive, I would say, what do you make of the world now? Does that change your worldview? You have a different slant on things now? Because I guarantee you they would. And they would also probably need to change their pants. Okay? Because this is the problem. We're in psychological denial. We're in psychological denial of how bad and evil this world really is. We're in psychological denial of who's running it, who's in control of it. And most of all, we're in psychological denial that if we act and then propagate right knowledge, we can act. First of all, if we take that knowledge into ourselves, propagate right knowledge, and act upon it, it can be changed. I'm not telling you that it will be. I don't know whether it will be changed or not. I'm telling you it can be changed. The people who want to think it's impossible to change this and so forth, so they've given up, they don't get involved, they're not acting, they're just saying, oh, it's that way, it's always going to be that way, it always has been that way. Nonsense. You know what that's a ticket to? It's an excuse for non-action. And that's a right brain imbalance modality. Okay? And religion propagates this notion. The New Age movement largely propagates this notion as well. That this is just the human condition, and this is just human nature, and that's the way things are, and it's about acceptance. See, this is another dangerous right brain notion of it just has to be accepted the way that it is. Accept everything. Accept. Never rebel. Never try to change anything. You're just going to be banging your head against the wall. You know why that may be the case? That, yeah, people who try to change things have largely been banging their head up against the wall because they don't have any help. They don't have enough help. Therein lies the problem. They're trying to move this tremendous weight, and they're involved, and they're using all their strength, and they're asking people, hey, can you help me? We can move this together. And the other people are going, oh, that can't be moved. And people are saying, no, really, I understand the dynamic. It's this much weight. Each person here, we have enough people. Each person can lift this much. If we all combine our efforts and do it all at the same time, we can move this thing. And they're saying, that can't be moved. You're crazy. You want me to expend all that effort for something that can't be moved? for something that can't be changed. See, it's a sickness. It's an illness. This kind of mentality is a disease. And it's because these people have been moved into right-brained imbalance. And it's done through the tenets of the New Age belief system, the New Age religion. And again, it's this notion that this is just the natural order, and it's just the way that it's always going to be, so you might as well get used to it and accept it. Accept it. Okay? Well, you know what?
Accept your disempowerment and your victimization.
That's it. So be a good slave is what you're really being told. Buy into this notion that you can't change anything, and that makes you a good little slave. That's what a good little slave does. It accepts its lot in life. Well, you know what? All the people who bought into this religion called the New Age movement, you've been derailed. I have some news for you. You've been derailed from your true spiritual mission that you came here to complete on earth. You incarnated here for a reason, folks. Believe me, that higher spiritual realm does exist. And you were sitting there in that realm at some point in the distant past. Your soul was there, your consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And it was looking at the earth and saying, my God, these people are in such deep bondage. They're in such deep slavery. I want to go there and help to liberate that place. I want to go there and participate in a slave rebellion to end the slavery on earth. And you know what happened? You came here, you incarnated into a physical body, you bought a lot of programming, and eventually you got involved in a religion that took you right off of that mission. And that religion is called the New Age movement, the religion of no action, the religion of standing down, the religion of accepting your bondage. Well, you know what I have to say to that, folks? It's all bull. That's what it is. It's a religion and a total mind control system put there to derail you from your true spiritual mission of coming here to lead a slave rebellion. That's what the New Age movement really is. So we could look into the notions of how this is done. We could look into the modalities, I should say, the actual methodologies by which they've derailed these spiritual warriors. The people who think that they're spiritual and yet they believe in religion. They believe in government. They buy into all the New Age mumbo jumbo. You know, there is a real spirituality that underlies this. They're not in it though. They're trapped somewhere very different from where real enlightenment and real spirituality are at. And they see, I do what I do is I try to explain to people what I call streetwise spirituality. That this is a term I want to coin, and hopefully people will start adopting this and it'll get out there more. It's spirituality for the person who is really streetwise about what's really going on earth. Not saying, I don't want to look at that, you're so negative. Oh my God, you're so negative. And you talk with emotion and anger in your voice even about what's going on. Well, you know what? That's called righteous indignation. The proper emotional response for slavery is anger, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just say that again so it really sticks in. The proper emotional reaction to witnessing slavery taking place is anger. If you're not feeling anger when slavery is taking place, something is irrevocably broken in you. Perhaps irrevocably. But if something is definitely broken, if that's the case. So, you know, we can look at the methodologies by which these people have been derailed, because what they think enlightenment is and what they think real spirituality is nothing like what it really is. Absolutely zero. It shares nothing in common with it at all. At all. And here's the techniques that the dark occult and the New Age deceptions, it's what they've put in place to do that derailing of that spiritual mission, that real warrior energy spiritual mission that we came here to complete. And that is balance. That is, people will say, oh, that's all masculine energy. No, wrong, it's not. That warrior spirit is the balance point when slavery is the condition. When slavery is the condition, warrior energy is the balancing between the sacred feminine principle of non-aggression, the first pillar of enlightenment, the non-aggression principle, do not commit coercion and violence against your fellow man. Well, isn't that what slavery is? Coercing people's free will, claiming to own them, claiming that you're the authority over them? Okay? That's the first tenet. That's the sacred feminine energy that's involved in that warrior energy balance. Okay? You're saying, I recognize the sacred feminine principle of non-aggression. I embody that in my life. I embody that in my actions. This isn't what's being embodied over here. This is slavery over here. And if I'm going to bring that to an end, of course I have to embody the sacred feminine, but you're never going to do that without the balance of the sacred masculine. And if you see these other beings that are saying, I'm in control, I'm an authority, I'm a master over these beings that are my slaves, which is exactly what's happening here on earth, you have to combine the sacred masculine warrior energy in there. And that's the self-defense principle. That's saying, you don't have this right. No, you don't have that right. It's using the lost word, no. When somebody makes a claim of authority, the lost word has to and be used. No, you are not an authority. And absolutely, no, I am not your slave. I am no one's slave. I am a sovereign being. I am a sovereign spiritual being having a human experience here on earth. And it does matter what happens in this place. It absolutely matters. Of course, the entire physical reality is an illusory construct for the spirit to have experience. I'm not even debating that. Of course I know that. But that does not mean what takes place in this physical realm does not matter. Don't make that mistake spiritually to go into that trap. It matters what happens because the experience is real. The experience and the knowledge gained while here is real. Okay? And that adds to the totality of the knowledge of the all. So don't make the mistake of thinking that either matter is superior to spirit or that spirit is superior to matter. They are one and the same. They are the same thing. Spirit underlies all of it. So matter is a construct for spirit to have an experience. And of course it matters. Of course it actually matters what takes place here. You know, anybody who doesn't believe that is trapped in this right brain imbalance, and they're trapped in solipsism. The notion that, well, none of it matters. It's all an illusion. There's no such thing as truth. We don't have to actually know anything. And it's this notion, one of the big technologies, you could say, the big techniques of the New Age movement is to get you to believe that what enlightenment is really about is just changing yourself so that you become a little bit more of a compassionate person. But then after that, really it's about feeling good. I call this feel-good spirituality. You know, it's about using the quote secret to get what you want. This watered-down variant of the law of attraction. Not teaching people natural law, not deeply understanding natural law. No, just go to work using the so-called secret to get what you want. See, again, service to self modality. That's Satanism. You know, I want the bigger house. I want the better job. I want the car. And I'm not saying don't own anything. Don't get me wrong. Physical possessions I have no problem with. Okay? Don't let your possessions own you, but I have no problem with people owning things. People should own things. They should enjoy a good quality of life. But when you're going to say that the highest aspiration of spirituality is to have what you say you think you need or want, and it doesn't make a difference. You could be doing that in a state of slavery. Just as long as my slave cage is a little bit more posh than the next door neighbor's slave cage. Okay? My mobile slave vehicle to get me to my slave job has way more bells and whistles than the slave down the street's mobile vehicle to get to their slave job has. Don't you know? And I did that with the secret. You see? And I understand, folks, my tact is abrasive. I get it. I'm not going to water down anything so it goes down smooth. You need to understand you've been deceived. You've been played. You got played, to use street lingo. Okay? And if you understand you got played, now you got to become streetwise so you don't keep getting played. And that's what I'm trying to do. I want to present streetwise spirituality to people. That's what the new moniker I want to coin regarding this. So, I'll let you step in and ask anything you want, or we can keep going on the path of whatever these other New Age deceptions are. I could break some more down if you want, or we can go in.
Yeah, I would love you to, because this is the thing that has been really, quite frankly, frustrating for me, is that we have been duped into yet another domination and control mechanism. And it's just dressed a little bit better. It's got a little more bells and whistles, but it's the same crap all over again. And people, please understand, it's domination and control. It's to disempower us. And what I find, I guess, the most disturbing of all of it, and you've gone over this very well, is the idea, the meme of taking no action. It's all good. Love and light. Meditate and just hold the light. Yep. And you got to ask yourself, what in the hell is going on that we physically incarnate on a planet and we're taking no action? Hello?
Yep. Hello? On a planet where slavery has been going on since time immemorial.
Exactly. And this is one of those things that, and I'm just going to cover this real quickly, is that this has been going on for eons. And people especially look into ancient history and the ancient megalithic sites all over this planet. We were highly capable of doing things we cannot do today. So you got to ask yourself, what in the hell happened? And I think it's this disempowerment mechanism that these, in quotation marks, gods really messed with us, turned us into slaves, and just have kept the machine going. They just redress it occasionally in order so we can accept another slavery meme.
That's exactly right. And, I'll tell you two quick anecdotes about people that I encountered that were very attached to the New Age religion. I went to a New Age Expo here in Philadelphia about a year and a half back. Might have been 2 years ago, I'm not really sure, but I was asking people there, are you a Republican or a Democrat? And do you vote? And do you, think the government, is legitimate? Should it exist at all? And almost every person who I stopped and asked a couple of questions to about government said that they thought it was legitimate at a spiritual expo, which to me is the antithesis of all spirituality. They don't even understand that they're not progressed in knowledge enough to even understand that government is slavery and doesn't have any legitimacy and never had. That it's all based on the concept of authority, that certain people are the masters of other people. And if you just say it like that to them, they'll say, oh, you're so negative and that's such a dark way of seeing things. See, they rationalize. This is a big part of the New Age religion, is to rationalize something and say, oh, it's not as bad as you're making it out to be. It's slavery. That's what it actually is. Not because I say that's what it is. I'm telling you that's what it actually is. It's not my opinion. It's not my take on it. If you are honest with yourself about what government is, it's just slavery wrapped up in a different form. Instead of having one master, like a king or a priest or a pope at the top, you have multiple masters. You've divested that so-called authority into a group. So whereas the old world order looked at authority as, rulership as authority vested in one being, and he was the master over all the other beings. That's the old world order, kingship or religious control. Okay? The new world order is government is at the top. of this hierarchical pyramid structure of control. And, we've just divested that authority where it used to be in one person in the old world order. We've just divested it into multiple people, into a group calling themselves government. And it's the same structure of control and hierarchy and domination. Nothing has changed. The name has changed, and you've put the so-called quote-unquote authority into more people's hands. That's it. You haven't done away with the notion of authority. You've just put it into a group. That's called the New World Order. And it's the same thing. And see, the thing is, people use this term. It's not order, and it's not new. It's the old world chaos. The New World Order is the old world chaos. There's nothing different. So it's not new. That's why I call the New Age movement, in quotes, new. It's a new deception. Really, it's just ancient deception. It's just now being brought in because the old deception called religion, the cultural religions based on astrotheology, are not working as much anymore. So now we need to bring in the new deception, quote-unquote new. Just like the quote-unquote new world, quote-unquote order is the old world chaos. It has nothing to do with order, and it's nothing new. And the same thing is in regard to the New Age deception. See, this notion that we should ignore the negative. You should never talk about the negative. Oh, that'll bring more of it to you. You know what this is designed to do? Get people to remain ignorant. So if you're ignorant about what's really going on in this world, you're not streetwise. You're not streetwise. You're not really understanding what's being done to you. You're staying in a naive state of ignorance. Knowledge is never negative. Knowledge, by definition, cannot be negative, because if you know, then you're in a prepared position to act. If you truly know and understand. If you have the knowledge and you understand what it means, now you're in an empowered position to act. How can that ever be negative? It's impossible for that to ever be negative. I'm not telling people sit and dwell on the slavery all day long until it depresses you to a point where you can't get out of bed. Did I ever say that? No. That would be disempowering. That doesn't mean you don't learn what's going on, truly what's going on, not what you think's going on, not what you're comfortable hearing about what's going on. You learn what's really going on. Then you take action based on that knowledge. And that's empowerment. And that's what they don't want. The controllers don't want that. They want people in ignorance. So they feed you this idea, the first idea of the New Age movement. This is their main tenet. Ignore the negative. That's number one in the entire religion. It's more than even the religion of standing down and not taking action. It's the religion of ignorance when it comes to the truth about what's really going on here on earth. Let me just say that again. That's what the New Age religion really is. It is the religion of ignorance when it comes to the truth of what's really going on here on earth. And what better way to derail spiritual warriors from their original mission? To keep them in ignorance about what's really going on. Well, hey, when you go on a mission, you got to be briefed about what's going on in that area. And if somebody can say, you need to ignore the situation here, how are you going to go in and complete the mission? Let's just say a special team, in the army or whatever, gets sent to go and take out some bad guys someplace. Obviously they're not really used for that. They're used for stealing people's natural resources, so that the financial bank, elitists and bankers can have their way with the people of this country. But the point is, let's use the model of sending an elite team in to handle a situation someplace. Okay? If you're going to take out some bad guys, you need to know what the situation is. You need to know the tactical scenario. You need to know how many people are involved, where it is, what the terrain is like, how are they holed up, etc.
Yes, that's where you gather all your intel before you take action. That's
right. Somebody sitting in that briefing wouldn't say to the person who's briefing them and say, "You're so negative. You're telling us these people have fully automatic machine guns." Well, hey, if they did really have that, would you want to know? Or would you want to go in there blind and not prepared? Well, that's how knowledge works. Knowledge always prepares you. It always raises your level of consciousness to understand the situation as it really is so you can take proper action. So by definition, it is an impossibility for knowledge ever to be negative. What is always negative is ignorance. To ignore something deliberately that is present is always negative and disempowering. The surest fire way to ensure that a negative outcome happens and continues is to ignore knowledge of what is actually present. Let me just say that one more time. The surest fire way to ensure that a negative outcome happens and continues is to ignore the knowledge of what is actually present. And that's what the New Age movement teaches people to do. Ignore the negative. And it absolutely does do that. For people who are in denial and they're going to say, oh, no, it doesn't teach people to do. Yes, it does. I'm telling you, I've seen this from so many innumerable people and teachers in the movement that won't even talk about anything negative. They will not even discuss it. They will not even bring it up so that people can understand. How many New Age teachers, are talking about geoengineering? How many New Age teachers are talking about fluoride, which is a rat poison in drinking water, in 60% of the municipal districts in the United States of America, or more, probably more by this point? How many people in the New Age movement are talking about what dark occultism is and how its mind control techniques actually work?
Yeah,
how many people in the New Age
genetically modified foods?
Very few touch on that. There's probably a few that are just barely scraping the surface of GMOs, and they present it in a sugar pill way, and I have to spoon feed this to baby because he might not want to hear about how bad this situation really is. That's one that very few are touching on, but they are just starting to touch on that because they think, well, this might be a nice little gentle introduction to some of the negative things because they may know about some of them too. But see, we have to baby spoon feed baby. We can't treat people like adults and just come out and say it like it is. Oh, that's too abrasive. That's too much of a harsh tact. Well, you know what? We don't have the time to baby spoon this information to baby. Baby needs to grow up now. There's not enough time to take that approach. What it is it's a very naive approach that we have an infinite amount of time to do this, and that nothing really super negative or really cataclysmic can occur to humanity. We're well along that path right now. I mean, we're in a totalitarian system right now. But will you hear these New Age teachers talk about the police state measures that are in place all around us? No. As a matter of fact, many of them will say it's all legitimate. It's all, they believe the terrorism nonsense. They believe the whole 9/11 BS story. You want to talk about real BS? How many New Age teachers are talking about the monumental lie that 9/11 was? Hardly any.
Yeah, and this kind of brings me to a comment that I've been wanting to make for about the past 5 minutes. I'll make the comment, and then JP, our producer today who took over the stream, thank you so much, JP, and has got us out live now. He has a comment that he would really like to have you address.
Sure.
But my comment is that it absolutely galls me, and quite frankly, I want to vomit when people say we live in the nation of the free. The United States has 3 million laws on the books, more laws than any other nation on the face of this planet, and you think you're free? Jesus.
We have more people in prison in just about any, I think, than in any other society.
Yes.
Based on population as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. We have much higher proportion. JP's comment was one of the New Age tenets that really grinds my gears. I love that saying. JP's gears are grinding. Is that, we brought it all of this on ourselves attitude. What's your feeling on this?
I think it's a combination while this is something that has been orchestrated and quote-unquote done to us, our ignorance allows the current condition to be propagated and to be continued. So I take a dual approach to this. It is something that you could say we were victims of, and especially looking into the ancient past, you'll really recognize, if you're honest with yourself and about the information you find going down that rabbit hole, that yes, we were placed in this condition. But remaining in it, I sort of do say that is largely humanity's current responsibility. We can walk out of this cage whenever we want. Look, if somebody in deep ego, I was a priest in a satanic church. I woke up. Now, when I look at my awakening, I see it as it was simple next to as absolute suffering, the amount of suffering that it took me to wake up over 7 to 8 years of my life, maybe more. But I would say at least 7 to 8 years going through hard, introspective, psychological processes, looking myself in the mirror, so depressed about what I had become involved with that I could barely get out of bed. To break that conditioning down took, I would probably have to admit, over 8 years of my life. Okay? Now, if that's what it took for me in as deep ego trance as I was in when I bought into all of this dark occultist religion, okay? And I'm telling you, I was an easy case. I was a simple case of the ego. The ego did not have me as nearly as deeply as it has most other people. So I'm telling you, there are most people out there are so attached to their current worldview. They're so attached to the way that they live their life now. They're so attached to their own slavery that to admit that they were wrong, to actually then take action and do something different, it wouldn't take one lifetime. It wouldn't take 10 lifetimes. It would take thousands of lifetimes of being exposed to more and more and ever greater suffering. That's my take on where, see, understanding my level of egoic trance in my past and also understanding how much work it took to get myself out of that state and how long it took to do that, I think that I can reasonably extrapolate where most other people's mind is at because they have not woken up. And again, I do have to temper this and say these people did not share my experience. My experience is part of what helped me to wake up, a big part of it, obviously, okay, to understand what was really going on in the world, okay? Most people don't have that benefit of that experience. And that's why I say, when people ask me, what's one thing, if you could do it, would you really want to do to help people wake up? And I told you earlier, it would be to put them in the situation that I was in some form or fashion, so that they can really see who's running the world with their own eyes and really see the evil that they're up against. Because if they could see that, their mind would change like that in a snap of a finger. They wouldn't have to. They would start changing at that point. It would affect their mind so deeply that they would go, "Oh my God, where am I really at?" And you know what the answer to that question is? We're in hell. This is hell. This planet has become a hell world, a hell planet. You know, I'm not telling you it is perpetual hell. I'm telling you what we have allowed to continue and fester here on Earth has made it into a hell. And again, it's a dual-fold responsibility. Was this something that is partially done to us? Yes, it is. But is this something that must continue and that we, should take no responsibility in our role in allowing to continue? Absolutely not. It does not need to continue, and humanity is responsible for the condition of slavery on this planet for its propagation. We cannot excuse humanity for that because things are the way that they are because more people want them to remain this way than not. And I tell that to people, and they want to kill me for saying that. I'm telling you, that is a statement that I repeat constantly, and I get more flack about saying that than I do about anything else I say. I'm telling people, The way the law of attraction really works is more people have to want things to be the way that they are, and they will not change. The fact that the world is not changing, okay? And I'm not saying it's not slowly trickling to that change, but the reason it has not already changed is because still more people's mindset is holding it the way that it is in the vibratory energy that it's already in. And more people want it to remain this way than want it to change. And the reason they want it to remain that way is because they do not want to take personal responsibility for their own actions. They want to remain psychological children so that they never actually take in the knowledge, because once they take in that knowledge, you're responsible. Because now you have a moral obligation to act and do something based upon what you know. And therefore they say, I'd rather remain ignorant because I want to remain a child. That's what this is all really about. It's about a psychological complex of permanent childhood. People not wanting to grow up cosmically. Okay? And again, there are reasons for that I get into in some of my other work. Time's not going to permit to get into that today. But ultimately, those reasons are deep psychological, spiritual, and emotional abandonment when it comes to parental upbringing. We have abandonment issues in a big way as a species, not only just regular human psychological abandonment issues when it comes to parental psychological abandonment, but we have cosmic abandonment issues. And for people who want to check out that work, if they are, up to looking at the real horror of our situation, you could check out my video, Cosmic Abandonment. But that's for the advanced class. If you don't already understand that the human condition is slavery and really want to understand why it's slavery in the form that it is, that video is probably not for you. But if you're kind of advanced on this path and really understand what's going on here already, then I recommend it.
Yeah, Mark, and I would also like to include, this is just a personal note, is that our acquiescence, our acceptance of this slavery is not just affecting us anymore. It
Sure.
has profoundly affected this planet body.
Right. That's
and
right.
this is the thing that
and other species living on it.
Exactly, is that I have a very, very good friend in Canada, and she and I have been watching the cetaceans, the dolphins and the whales and the mass die-offs, and it's not just that. It gets really, really emotional for me.
Sure, I understand. I feel the same way.
People just don't want to take responsibility for this corporate evil that is absolutely destroying this planet. And you know what? Corporations are made of people.
That's right.
And
so by definition, you have to accept the reality. Most people think like this, or they're just willing to accept it because they get a paycheck in return for going along, to get along. So until that dynamic changes and people say, I will not be involved in this, I will not contribute to this evil. That's Gandhi said the way you take down an evil system is by refusing to comply with its commands. The end. No one wants to hear that. They don't want to hear that because it places them firmly in the driver's seat and all the responsibilities on them. If you understand that people own themselves, you cannot join the police force and go and try to say, I'm going to lock you up because this person told me it's okay to lock you up for putting a substance into your body. Well, that's a claim of ownership on someone else's body. Then I can't be involved in that action. Okay? If you really believe that people shouldn't be aggressed against, okay, in other parts of the world, then you can't join the military and go say, I'm going to take someone else's order and go and take resources from other people because my commanding officer said that that's okay for me to do. And I'm going to say that it's not my responsibility. I was just following orders. You can't get involved with that. If you think banking has become a criminal enterprise and it's basically destituted people through fiat currency and the fractional reserve system, you can't get involved in that institution. The whole point is humanity needs, more so than taking action, needs to stop taking certain actions. See, that's the apophatic approach to the solution. This is another thing people are very uncomfortable in hearing, and this term comes from apophatic is a method of reasoning that is basically you're eliminating certain things that are not true. And then by way of that exclusion of known negatives, you're arriving at a conclusion of what is true. It's deductive reasoning, okay? So to work your way to the solution via apophasis or apophatic inquiry, negative inquiry, you want to say, what are we currently doing that's keeping slavery in place? And then stop doing that, and then there won't be slavery anymore. But see, people want to say this is necessary. We have to do that. We need a police force. We need the Federal Reserve. There would be chaos if we didn't have that. And there it goes. There's that. There's the slave think. See, right there I've just described what slave think is. We need the masters. We need them. There would be chaos. We wrote down on a paper as part of a psychological experiment, myself and some students in a seminar that I taught last summer. We wrote down the phrase, no masters, no rulers. That 4-word phrase, no masters, period, no rulers, period, on a piece of paper, handed it to about 100 people. And you know what about almost 20 to 25% of people wrote down? Chaos. Just think about that for a minute. How sick and diseased. You know what that tells me? You know what that's the sign of? A broken animal. If a horse that has been completely broken, or a pig that is in a factory farm could speak, that's an answer they might give. Without the master, chaos. Without the ruler, chaos. I didn't write down no rules. I didn't write down disregarding rules or just, suddenly, absolutely going crazy and conducting violence on the first person you see. We wrote down that there are no longer any masters over any other human beings. And the response from almost a quarter of the people was chaos. And people would say, we're not an insane culture. I mean, that's 100% total proof right there of mass insanity. That these people believe humanity needs masters over them, or it would become complete chaos. And you know what I say? Even if it did, beautiful. Embrace it. Embrace the chaos that would even happen. Let's say that were true. I would be rejoicing because the idea of authority would be gone. And if we had to go through a transitional period of chaos, or even if that chaos consumed us, I would die with a smile on my face. I'm not afraid of chaos. I'm afraid of this punctuated chaos that may never end and go on and on and on, that is called never-ending slavery. I don't even want to use the word afraid, okay? That is something that would really sicken me, okay, to think that slavery would go on indefinitely. But that's where people's mindset is at, that they thought the equivalent of the first phrase that came into their mind upon hearing the phrase, there are no longer any masters, was chaos, not freedom. At humanity's benefit, more people did say the word freedom than chaos, okay? Which I would hope that is the case. But that's a disturbingly high number of the amount of people who actually said chaos to mean the absence of someone ruling over another person, being their master or their authority. That shows how dark their poisoned worldview about human nature is. They've bought this notion that human nature is fundamentally evil and bad, when in fact that's just the human condition. The human condition is right now pretty evil, but that's not its nature. There's a difference between human condition and human nature. We cannot confuse the two. We're in a very dark and sick condition, but that does not mean it is our nature.
Yeah, this kind of gets into something that I've spoken of numerous times about the programming and hypnosis of humankind, and that both programming and hypnosis can be broken. But we do have a question in the chat room, and Beatrixie is asking, how high would you say this goes? For example, the archons, whatever. And then I asked her to elucidate a little bit more on what exactly she was asking, and she was meaning to ask is that how high up the control grid goes.
Definitely out of the 3D domain, without any question. It's something I've not really discussed a lot and kind of been tight-lipped about, because I've been building up this information that does interact and operate in the 3D world. But I absolutely am on the side of many researchers who have talked about this, that this goes out of the human realm for certain. I would say to my satisfaction, I would say I know that. Would I tell other people I definitively know that? I wouldn't make that statement. Within my own perception and what I feel is good enough evidence, that is what I would say. Yes, it does leave the human realm and go into higher dimensional realms or non-human entities, whether they be of physical origin or whether they be of spiritual nature. To me, that doesn't even matter as much. The way that they work is the same. The methods that they use are the same. Understanding the methodology by which we are controlled is even more important than having a debate or an argument about, what their nature happens to be. Is it extraterrestrial? Is it extra-dimensional? Is it interdimensional? Is it demonic? Is it, all of these things?
I say yes to all of the above.
Exactly. Every one of those modalities could be operating here to keep this farm going. And that's what Earth is. Earth is a farm. The point here is, we're on a farm. Do you want to get off of it? It doesn't matter as much who the farmers are. They all use the same methods. It's farming. We need to understand their methods, stop going along with them, and break our chains of servitude. And then we could, possibly draw that dynamic out and, really understand what it really is. But, the first step is understanding how we're being controlled. So, again, to the person who asked this question in the chat room, I would say, check out my Cosmic Abandonment lecture. You'll probably get a lot of value out of that based on where you're at. And I would say, regardless of what their nature is, the word archon describes what they are, because archon in the Greek language actually means master or ruler, as in master over a slave or a group of slaves, and ruler over a group of subjects. And this is where we get the term anarchy from. The root is archon. So anarchy means when you tack on a or an in the Greek language to a root word, it creates the negation of that word, or it means the absence of that thing. So when we tack on a or an to archon, it means the absence of the archons. The absence of rulers, the absence of masters, no rulers, no masters. It does not mean no rules. Anarchy means no masters and no slaves, and therefore true freedom. And I hear the music coming up, so I guess we're at the end.
We're at the end. Can you give your website real quick?
Check out whatonearthishappening.com. Check out the videos there. Check out the podcast section. Go back to number 1. Listen to them in order. It's a tapestry, folks. You got to take them in order at your own pace. Tony, thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you. It was absolutely my pet pleasure, and you're absolutely welcome back at any time.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
All right, you too.